They say empaths are just too sensitive. But what if the truth is, they see what others can't? Not with their eyes, but with their nervous system. They don't read minds. They read something far deeper. And Carl Jung understood this. If you've ever felt drained after being around someone, if you've walked into a room and instantly knew something was wrong, this video might explain why. And once you understand it, you'll never see yourself or others the same way again. Empaths don't cry because they're weak. They cry because their body detects vibrations that most people ignore. It's not emotional overload, it's emotional data. And they can't turn it off. Carl Jung believed we're connected by something deeper than words or thoughts. He called it the collective unconscious. Empaths tap into this field constantly, whether they want to or not. While others respond to what's said, empaths react to what's felt, even if it's hidden. This is why they can look at someone who's smiling and still sense their pain. Why they're often the first to say, something's wrong, even when everything looks perfect on the outside. It's not magic, it's awareness. You're not broken for feeling exhausted after being in a crowd. You're not weak for needing space after a conversation. What's actually happening is that your body is absorbing emotional information. And sometimes it doesn't know what to do with it all. Jung described this as a psychic sponge effect, where certain people unconsciously absorb the energy around them. Not because they choose to, but because their inner world is open, permeable, receptive. You might feel anxiety that isn't yours. You might sense conflict between two people, even when they haven't said a word. You might cry without knowing why. That doesn't make you unstable. It means your nervous system is acting like a tuning fork, resonating with invisible tension in the room. If you're an empath, you've likely been told you're imagining things, that you're too dramatic or too sensitive. But Jung warned about this. He called it spiritual confusion. When a person can feel emotional truths before they're spoken, they threaten people who hide behind masks. So instead of honoring your intuition, they'll shame it. Instead of validating your instincts, they'll label you irrational. And the worst part? After enough of this, you start believing them. You suppress your perceptions. You doubt your own signals. You disconnect from your internal compass just to make others comfortable. But energy doesn't stop just because you pretend not to feel it. Imagine carrying emotions that aren't yours, guilt that isn't yours, rage that you never earned. Now imagine doing that for years. This is what many empaths live with. They carry emotional weight from others like it's their job. And eventually, their body starts to show it. Chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, burnout, emotional confusion. It's not a mental weakness. It's nervous system exhaustion. Jung said that what we fail to make conscious will manifest as fate. If you don't recognize what energy is yours and what isn't, your life becomes a fog. You'll attract chaotic people, lose your sense of self, and mistake emotional survival for love. You don't need to cry easily to be an empath. You don't have to love poetry or hug trees. Jung saw empaths as psychological instruments, tools for emotional truth. If you've ever felt peace in nature, but anxiety in crowds, if you've ever felt off around someone everyone else loves, if you've ever sensed someone's pain and cried before they even said a word, then what you're experiencing is energetic resonance, the field Jung believed we all share, the invisible fabric connecting all human emotion. There's a big difference between understanding how someone feels and absorbing how someone feels. The first is empathy. The second is energetic fusion. Jung warned that identification with others' emotions, without awareness, leads to emotional inflation. You start thinking their pain is your pain. Their joy is your joy. Their guilt becomes your burden. And slowly, your sense of self erodes. This is where most empaths suffer. Not because they care too much, but because they don't know how to stop merging. They were never taught emotional boundaries. They never learned the difference between resonance and responsibility. While most people navigate life through logic and control, empaths operate through intuitive insight. They know things before they know how they know them. This is the gift Jung called the irrational function of intuition, the ability to sense patterns beyond the five senses, not in a mystical way, but as a biological truth. Our bodies pick up micro signals. Our unconscious notices subtle shifts. And empaths, they feel them in full volume. That strange gut feeling, that flash of knowing, that discomfort you can't explain, those aren't just feelings. They're data. You just haven't been taught how to read it yet. This is the hidden trap. Empaths often become emotional caretakers. They think if they can just love someone enough, they'll stop hurting. If they can just absorb someone's sadness, they'll be okay. But Jung warned, this is a form of unconscious possession. You are not here to fix everyone. You are not responsible for healing every broken person. You are not obligated to carry wounds you didn't cause. Empaths must learn the difference between compassion and self-erasure. Because if you don't, you'll slowly lose yourself in the pain of everyone you love. Now, being an empath is not a diagnosis. It's not a flaw, but it does require skill. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires separating what is yours from what is not. For the empath, this means learning boundaries, not just with people, but with energy. You don't have to cut people out to protect your peace. But you do need to stop merging with every emotional current. You need to ground, to clear, to reflect, to pause before absorbing. Otherwise, your gift becomes your curse, your light becomes your burden, and your kindness becomes your exhaustion. This is only the beginning. Most people don't understand what it means to feel energy, to read a room without trying, to absorb what others deny. But you do. And that's why you're here. In the next section, we'll break down exactly how empaths can separate their own emotions from the ones they're absorbing, using Jung's principles of individuation, shadow work, and psychic differentiation. But for now, breathe. You're not broken. You've just been feeling what others refuse to face. One of the most painful parts of being an empath is the confusion. You feel sad, but you don't know why. You feel anxious, but nothing's wrong. You sense anger, but you're not the one who's angry. This confusion happens when emotional boundaries are too thin. Carl Jung believed that without awareness, the unconscious of one person can leak into the unconscious of another. When you haven't developed your own internal boundaries, you become a receiver for other people's emotions. And it happens silently. You think it's you. You think you're unstable. But what you're actually feeling is them. You're standing in someone else's storm and blaming yourself for the rain. Because you can sense pain, you feel responsible for it. This is the trap. You notice someone's sadness and try to cheer them up. You detect tension and take on the role of the peacemaker. You feel someone's anger and shrink to avoid triggering it. Over time, you become the emotional filter for everyone around you. But Carl Jung warned that this leads to persona inflation. You build an identity around being the healer, the safe one, the strong one. And in doing so, you stop listening to your own needs. The more you try to heal others, the more you forget how to be with yourself. And eventually, you burn out, quietly, invisibly, and alone. Here's the truth most empaths never hear. You can love someone deeply and still not carry their emotional burden. You can witness someone's suffering and still protect your own peace. You can walk with someone through pain without letting it bury you. Jung believed in individuation, the idea that each person must face their own shadow, integrate their own pain, and walk their own path toward healing. When you take on someone else's shadow, you block that process. You interfere with their growth, and worse, you lose yours. Being supportive is noble. Being self-sacrificing is dangerous. If you continue to carry what's not yours, eventually your soul will collapse under the weight. You've probably noticed it by now. You attract people who are wounded, chaotic, emotionally intense. You've had relationships where they drain you, then blame you. You've been the therapist, the fixer, the emotional crutch. That's not a coincidence. Carl Jung described emotional projection as the unconscious attempt to unload pain. Some people, often unknowingly, seek out empaths because they know, deep down, that you'll carry it for them. You're calm. You're safe. You'll understand. You'll absorb. But here's the problem. These people don't want to heal. They want to offload. And when you stop absorbing, they turn on you. It's not your job to be someone's emotional landfill. Empaths often wear a mask of goodness. You smile when you're hurting. You say yes when you want to scream no. You try to keep the peace, even when it's costing your peace. Jung warned that the persona, the social mask we wear, can become a prison. If you're always the one who understands, always the one who forgives, always the one who sacrifices, eventually, you lose the real you. You become a mirror for others, instead of a reflection of yourself. Empaths are especially vulnerable to this, because your gift is your presence. You reflect back what others feel. But without conscious boundaries, you start performing peace. And that's not peace. That's self-abandonment. Real empathy honors and invites both people. It doesn't erase you to comfort them. When someone cries, you can hold space without becoming the tears. When someone lashes out, you can witness without shrinking. When someone blames you, you can stay grounded in your own truth. This is what Jung called psychic differentiation, the ability to be present without merging, to love without losing yourself, to care without collapsing. You don't owe your nervous system to anyone. Boundaries are not walls. They're filters. They let in truth and keep out harm. You can have a kind heart and still say, I will not absorb that today. The mind can be manipulated. The heart can be confused. But the body always knows. Your shoulders tensed up when that person entered the room. Your stomach dropped during that phone call. Your jaw clenched when you read that message. You noticed, but you ignored it. Empaths must stop bypassing the body. Jung believed that the body is the shadow's first voice. Before your conscious mind can process what's wrong, your body already knows. It stiffens. It shrinks. It flares. It warns you. When you feel that signal, don't rationalize it. Don't override it. Listen. That's your system trying to protect you. Alone, time is not a luxury. It's a lifeline. Empaths need silence, stillness, space. And not just once a month, but daily. Carl Jung often retreated into solitude, not because he hated people, but because he needed to reset his psyche. Empaths must do the same. You can't be a tuning fork all day and expect to feel calm by night. You need time to discharge what you've absorbed, time to reconnect with your own emotions, time to breathe without anyone else's energy in the room. That's not selfish. That's maintenance. You don't owe your availability to everyone. The world doesn't collapse when you step away. And the people who truly care about you will understand your silence. You were never too much. You were never too dramatic. You were born with a nervous system that tunes in rather than filters out. In a world addicted to noise, your silence is radical. In a world that worships logic, your intuition is sacred. In a world of surface interactions, your depth is medicine. But only if you learn to use it with wisdom. Empathy is not just feeling others. It's staying rooted in yourself while doing so. It's the courage to say, I feel you, but I do not become you. That's power. That's maturity. That's what Jung meant when he said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. You've been looking outside for too long. It's time to awaken. If you don't guard your gift, the world will use it until you collapse. They'll take your kindness and call it weakness. They'll take your insight and call it paranoia. They'll take your presence and never once ask how you're doing. Empaths are at their most powerful when they set limits, when they say no more, when they walk away from emotional chaos, when they stop proving they're good and start proving they're whole. Carl Jung didn't want us to become perfect. He wanted us to become real. That means choosing self-trust over people-pleasing, emotional truth over social performance, and deep presence over shallow connection. You don't have to be everyone's lifeline. You just have to be your own. We'll explore how empaths can train their intuition, separate trauma from truth, and finally, stop absorbing emotional poison from others. You'll learn the exact steps Jung would recommend to protect your psyche without shutting down your gift. But for now, just know this. You're not here to carry the pain of the world. You're here to understand it, transform it, and choose wisely when to engage. And that choice starts with you. Your intuition is not just a vague feeling. It's a refined instrument. And like any instrument, it needs tuning. For empaths, the goal is not to shut out the world. It's to sharpen perception without collapsing into every emotional current. Carl Jung taught that intuition, when untrained, becomes overwhelmed. But when trained, it becomes wisdom. It sees beneath the surface. It cuts through performance. It hears what's not being said. To do this, start small. Don't wait for chaos to practice. Begin in silence. Tune into the body. When someone walks into the room, what shifts in you? Is your heart racing? Is your stomach tight? That's information. Write it down. Don't interpret it yet. Just notice. Intuition grows through repetition and observation, not force. You're not learning to guess what others feel. You're learning to trust what you already know. There's a trap every empath must learn to avoid: mistaking past wounds for present wisdom. You feel someone pull away and assume they're angry. You hear a tone shift and spiral into panic. You sense rejection and believe it's happening again. But here's the truth. Not every feeling is a prophecy. Some are echoes. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is where many empaths stay stuck. They think they're just intuitive, when really they're re-experiencing unresolved trauma. That's why boundaries matter, not just with people, but with yourself. You must pause and ask, is this intuition? Or is this fear in disguise? Is this person unsafe? Or does my nervous system still believe I'm back in that old situation? Awareness breaks the spell. And in that break, you reclaim your clarity. Empaths often confuse connection with safety. You feel seen. You feel understood. You feel intensity. But is that safety or just familiarity? Many empaths were raised in environments where emotional chaos was normal. So when they meet someone who also carries chaos, it feels like home. But not all homes are safe. Carl Jung emphasized that the psyche repeats patterns until they are made conscious. So you might find yourself drawn to people who drain you, not because you're weak, but because part of you is still trying to resolve the original wound. True connection doesn't deplete you. It nourishes you. It doesn't pull you into drama. It invites you into presence. You don't have to guess if someone cares. You feel it in the calm, in the steadiness, in the way your body doesn't brace when they enter the room. Learn to trust that signal. From a young age, you may have learned that being attuned to others was the only way to survive. You watched moods like weather forecasts. You adjusted your tone to keep the peace. You learned how to disappear, so others wouldn't erupt. That's not empathy. That's survival. And now that you're safe, it's time to stop surviving and start being. Self-abandonment becomes the default for many empaths. But healing begins when you pause, turn inward, and say, I don't need to fix this. I don't need to mirror this. I don't need to disappear to make others comfortable. You don't need permission to exist fully. You just need practice. Carl Jung believed that the soul's work is not to avoid suffering, but to integrate it. For empaths, this means learning to witness energy without merging with it. Try this next time someone unloads their emotion on you. 1. Visualize a transparent wall between you and them. You can see them, hear them, feel with them, but the energy doesn't come into you. It stops at the wall. 2. Stay grounded in your breath. Notice your own body. Feel your feet. Keep part of your awareness inside you, not entirely in them. 3. After the interaction, discharge the energy. Walk. Shake it out. Journal. Cry if needed. But do not carry it into sleep. That's how energy becomes illness. This practice isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's how you stay intact. It's how you become a conscious empath, not a wounded sponge. Empathy is not just about openness. It's also about discernment, the ability to sense who's safe and who's manipulative, who's genuine and who's pretending. But this gift only activates when you stop overriding your gut. You've felt it before. A charm that felt too polished. A compliment that had a strange tone. A story that didn't match their energy. And still, you smiled, you stayed, you second-guessed yourself. Jung taught that the unconscious speaks first through subtle impressions. The shiver down your spine, the eye twitch, the energy drop. If you don't trust those messages, you're walking into traps blindfolded. Discernment is not judgment, it's protection, and you've earned it. The final reminder. Empathy without boundaries leads to exhaustion. Intuition without self-trust leads to confusion. But when combined with awareness, empathy becomes your superpower.